Okay, so welcome to day 3 of our retreat. Today we are reflecting back and okay, welcome Pamela.
Hi.
So today we're reflecting back, and first we are going to reflect back on the disappointments and the things that we feel let down by in the past year. Tomorrow we're going to reflect back on the contentment that we felt in the past year. So today we're going to be focusing in our yin class on the lung meridian. And the lung meridian has to do with the emotion of grief. And I just want to, we've just spent the last 20 minutes talking about the emotions that are coming forward right now. And in the arc of the retreat, I've been reassuring you over the last couple of days that this is a very normal place to be. And many of you have actually spoken about how with any emotions that come forward, whether they be anger or irritation, that underneath that there is a kind of sadness and grief to it. So that's why I've chosen the lung meridian. And yeah, in reflecting back on the things that, we wish could have been different or better, or disappointments in the past year, there is a kind of sadness or a grief, or letting go of what could have been. I think there is attending to that grief, and it's an important part of the process of releasing this past year as well. So we're going to start in Shavasana, and we'll go through our yin class, and then you'll have an opportunity to check in again at the end. It's really important that you, as I've been saying, that you see the whole process through, as uncomfortable as it may be. There The arc of the retreat is designed to take you through the whole process. As Linda said, that the emotions do pass and there is integration that happens. So the retreat is designed to give you integration. So it's tempting to bail when things get uncomfortable, but it's important to stay and see the process through. Otherwise, you stay in that period of discomfort, right? And should emotions get too uncomfortable, it's also good to know that you can always reach out for extra support, whether that be with trusted friends or therapist. That's always advised as well if things feel like they're getting too much. Okay, so go ahead and rest back in Shavasana. So begin by feeling the support of the earth underneath you, and allow your body to rest into that ever waiting support, letting the tension of your body, both physical and emotional, any mental tension, release into the earth. And let your breath settle into your lower belly. So in this class, we're going to reflect back on the hurt, the disappointments, the grief of the last year with the help of David White. David White says that disappointment is an inescapable but necessary part of life. It's a misunderstood mercy, and when approached properly, an agency for transformation, and the hidden underground engine of trust and generosity in human life. The attempt to create a life devoid of disappointment is the attempt to avoid the vulnerabilities that make the conversations of real, moving, and lifelike. It is an attempt to avoid our own necessary and merciful heartbreak. To be disappointed is to reassess ourselves and our inner world, and to be called to the larger foundational reality that lies beyond any false self we had only projected upon the outer world. To be disappointed is to reassess ourselves and our inner world, and to be called to the larger foundational reality that lies beyond any false self we had only projected upon the outer world. Okay, you're going to make your way from Shavasana to lying on your belly so you can put your bolster off to the side and lie on your belly. And you're going to take your right arm out to the side and your left hand underneath your shoulder, and push your body towards your right arm. So you're pushing your torso away from the left side and drawing your knees up on the left side. So you come into broken wing pose. And we'll rest here for 5 minutes. So as we enter into this class for the lung meridian with the intention of reflecting back on the disappointment, the grief, the sadness of the past year, we can remember the principles of Yin Yoga. That when we come into a pose, we find an appropriate edge, which means there should be no sharp shooting pain, nothing nervy. And we should be able to take a deep breath into our belly. When we come into the pose, we want to embody all the qualities of Yin. We want to soften. We want to be yielding. We want to receive the posture. We want to surrender into the posture, allow the posture, so that we can get into the deeper tissues and allow gravity and time to do all the work. So there's no effort. And slow, gentle traction. And we resolve to be still. So yin is a mindfulness practice. There may be physical sensations of discomfort that come up during the practice, maybe emotional sensations that are uncomfortable. And as we hold these poses over long periods of time, this kind of mindfulness practice teaches us how to be present with sensations of discomfort here on our mat and by extension in our lives. Okay, so you're going to slowly come out of this pose and lie on your back to feel the rebound. And then you're going to lie on your stomach again. And this time you'll take your left arm out to the side. And you're going to take your right hand under your right shoulder, push your body away towards your left arm, bringing your knees up to the side so that you're in broken wing pose on the other side. And we'll stay in this pose here. Resting and yielding, softening, letting the pose do everything for you. So, what we call disappointment may just be the first stage in our freedom in the next stage of our existence. To be disappointed is to reappraise not only reality itself, but our foundational relationship to the pattern of events, places, and people that surround us, and which, until we were properly disappointed, we had misinterpreted and misunderstood. Disappointment is the first fruitful foundation of genuine heartbreak from which we risk ourselves in marriage, in work, in friendship, or with life itself. So go ahead and release this pose from your body. Make your way onto your backs so that you can feel the echo through your body and through your meridians. And then we're going to come over onto all fours. On all fours, we're going to do melting heart pose. So you may want a block for underneath your head. You can even do melting heart pose with using a chair so that it elevates the whole thing. That can take a lot of pressure off, make it have a lot more ease in the pose. You can take your arms wider as well. That will take some pinching out between the shoulder blades. There's pinching between the shoulder blades. So you want your legs to be 90-degree angle to the floor. You'll tip your sit bones up, and then you're going to rest your forehead on the floor. And just as the pose describes, you're going to melt your heart to the floor. And try to be soft in this pose here too. Let gravity and time do the work, not you. If this really bothers your neck, then you don't want to do this pose. You can always place a bolster underneath your chest. And you could take this pose like this with your arms overhead. So, the measure of our courage is the measure of our willingness to embrace disappointment, to turn towards it rather than away. The understanding that every real conversation of life involves having our hearts broken somewhere along the onward way. And there is no sincere path we can follow where we will not be fully and immeasurably let down and brought to earth, and where what initially looks like betrayal eventually puts real ground under our feet. Okay, so you're going to slowly make your way out of this pose. And go ahead and lie down on your back and allow yourself to integrate it. Feel the energy moving through your body. And then we're going to come into Banana Asana. So you're going to take your feet over to the left side of the mat. Take your arms overhead again. And then side bend over to the left side. So release the pose from your body very carefully, because we've had our arms overhead for the last two poses. So with ease. Okay, you're going to bring them down and bring your body back to the center. So the great question with disappointment is whether we allow it to bring us ground to a firmer sense of self, a surer sense of our world, and what is good and possible for us in that world, or whether we experience it only as a wound that makes us retreat from further participation. Okay, we're going to do that banana asana on the other side. So take your feet over to the right side of your mat. You can even hook your foot on the ankle, but remember we're here for 5 minutes, so the intensity can increase over time. And take your arms overhead. Soften and yield in the pose. Allow time and gravity to do the slow and gentle traction of the deeper tissues in the body. Very slowly and with great care, you're going to bring yourself out of this pose. And coming to the center, feel the energy moving through your body, the chi you cultivated. And then bend your knees and roll to your side. You're going to slowly make your way up to a seated position. We're going to be doing or have the option of doing cow's face legs. If that's a lot for you, then I would suggest not doing them. You can take another position for your legs. It's up to you. And if you need a block or a cushion between your legs, then you can do that too. You're probably going to need a strap for this because we're going to do cow's face arms. So if that's the case, get your strap. We'll start with our right leg on top of our left leg. And then you're going to internally rotate your right arm, bring it up your back, and then bring your left arm up and over. And if you need the strap, you can take the strap and use it to walk your arms together up your back. Or you can join your hands, whichever works best for you. So remember, keep your head up. You don't need to look at me. You're going to keep your head up and look forward. Soften here in your shoulders. Let there be stillness and ease. Disappointment is a friend to transformation, a call to both accuracy and generosity in the assessment of ourself and others, a test of sincerity and a catalyst of resilience. So check and see that your chin is level with the floor. So you're going to very slowly release your arms. And you're going to push the wall away from you. Okay, and then release that down. Release your legs and just let them sit out in front of you for a moment. And then switch your legs so your left leg is on top of your right leg now. If you're using a strap, switch the shoulder. And then let's actually start by taking your right arm up and just using your left arm to open up the top of your right shoulder. So this is where your lung meridian is, here on the inside of your arm. And there's a tendency to look down for some of you. So keep your back straight and your head up. Okay. And try to avoid that tucking of your chin down, keeping, just like we do in meditation, staying open through the back of your head. And you want your arm to stay up. That's the meridian we're staying open to. So even if that means dropping the other hand and using this hand to here, even instead, that could be an option too, okay? And then you're going to take your left hand around behind. Even the traction could be more here at the back, drawing the strap down so that it opens up the meridian on the right arm, okay? And keeping your head up. So I was noticing some of you dropping your head, okay? And soften. So soften. This isn't hatha yoga, right? Where we're efforting because we're staying in this pose for 5 minutes. So we want to soften and yield into the pose. And we let time and gravity do the work. So we don't do the work in these poses. We yield and we breathe, especially into the joints. Breathe into the joint of the shoulder. So, really, just like we soften into the poses, this is a perfect metaphor for softening with those more challenging emotions. You know, when they come up, we soften with ourselves. We can be more tender, we can be more compassionate, we can be more merciful with ourselves when these more challenging emotions come up, knowing that there's no shame in feeling them. So the same softness that we bring to our yin pose, we can bring to the more difficult feelings and expressions of emotions that are arising. So just notice how it is in a pose like this and your reaction to them, and see if there can be softness instead. Softness, tenderness, kindness, yielding, allowing, surrendering, opening. Notice the tendency to want to run away and the choice to be present even with difficult sensations. Okay, so you're going to slowly release this side from your body. And same thing, we're just going to press that wall away from us. And then you can go ahead and rest back for Shavasana. I'd recommend you place a bolster underneath your knees. So, John O'Donohue reminds us that it is often loss that awakens us to deep presence. With loss comes the grace of recognition. Inspired by awareness, you discover your deepest longing. And a poem by David Whyte to finish our class today called The Journey. Above the mountains, the geese turn into the light again, painting their black silhouettes on an open sky. Sometimes everything has to be inscribed across the heavens, so you can find the one line already written inside you. Sometimes it takes a great sky to find that first bright and indescribable red of freedom in your own heart. Sometimes with the bones of the black sticks left when the fire has gone out, someone has written something new in the ashes of your life. You are not leaving, even as the light fades quickly now. You are arriving. You are not leaving, even as the light fades quickly now. You are arriving. Okay, so gradually allow your breath to deepen. Begin to wiggle your fingers and toes. You can bend your knees. And slowly make your way up to a seated position. So when you come to seated, just take a moment to connect to the earth. Allow your spine to lengthen, open up through the back of your head. Draw your ears back over your shoulders. Let your elbows come underneath your shoulders. Space between your teeth, your tongue floats in your mouth. Gently rocking forward and back, side to side, finding that space along the back line. Feeling your breath coming into your lower belly. And feeling the prana or the energy flowing through your body. Feeling your connection to the earth. And feeling the innate internal wisdom that's always available for you in your own body. Knowing that each one of us has access to that internal wisdom. So reflecting back on your experience of the retreat so far, on your experience of this class, just noticing what stands out, what seems most important. And noting how that thing that stands out relates to the rest of your life and maybe even this year that's just passed. And in a moment, you'll have an opportunity to speak about what stood out about your experience today. Relate your reflection from this class, from the retreat, from this past year. As we do so, we just remember that all the agreements we make when we come into our community still hold true when we come into our circle, that we are a community that practices ahimsa. We do so by speaking from our own experience, using the words I and not you, and trusting that each one of us has access to this internal wisdom that we connected to when we came to sitting. So there's no need to fix or change or rescue anybody, even if they seem like they're coming from a place of painful experience. So I'm actually going to leave the lines muted. And what I'll do is I'll ask you just to unmute yourself when you want to speak. And then you can mute yourself again after you're done speaking, just because we have so many people here.
I start. Is it okay?
Hi, Benny.
Hi. I was arguing with myself during the class because just before the class, I wrote something in the comments section and about how peaceful I felt today and how much ease I felt in my body and my mind. And so I was arguing with myself around the old same questions that are, am I authentic enough? Am I digging enough? And what stood out is that, well, do I have to look for something that doesn't exist right now? What if the truth of my experience right now is just peace and ease and not others emotions like I might have experienced before? So, of course, there are also self-judgment which came with that. And so I decided that, well, the truth of my experience is this, and I don't have to look for something else. Even if maybe that's not it's not the correct word, but it's not the right experience during this time of the retreat. Well,
Yeah.
for me, it's this experience.
What's happening. Yeah. It's not the theme of the class, but that's what's true for you right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, I have another comments question. I don't know, because the poses we made tonight were really strong, especially during the heart melt pose. My arms were really tensed, and it was pretty hard to focus. To stay connected with these strong feelings, with this strong body feeling. So is it right in yin yoga to have those strong experiences? This is the first question. And after a while, during the pose, I could observe that I still could breathe easily, despite of these strong experiences, mostly almost painful experience, but I still could breathe. So I think that it's like a beautiful metaphor of life, because although you are experiencing painful times, you still can breathe and connect with a kind of strength within, you know. So here I was. Thank you.
That sounds like a very accurate description of yin yoga to me. And I think that's why it's such a great training ground for meditation and life. And I think that's also why each time, I think it's why it's such a mature and intermediate / advanced practice, because each time we come to these poses, particularly poses like heart melting pose or lunge pose, or it's called dragon in yin. We get to choose an edge that is appropriate for us. We get to see how we can soften into the experience, and I think that's just so relevant in life as well, isn't it? Mm-hmm. At least that's been my experience of yin.
Ask a question about heart melting pose.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm into it, I think I'm too soft, and when very easily my chest goes onto the ground and my hands are above my head, it's very comfortable in that way, but it really hurts my forehead because my face feels as though it's squashed onto the ground, or at least my head is. And so although the pose itself is very comfortable, can I turn my head?
So you could actually you could turn to one side, but you could actually probably come up onto your chin.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And so for people that are that are very flexible in their shoulders, which sounds like you, which I'm envious. Those of us who are very tight in our shoulders are probably all like, wow, that would be so nice.
Very of your hips, so
there you go, right? Just know that you're still accessing the meridians, right? When you take that pose, you're taking a shape and there's still energy moving through the body, right?
Yeah.
It's something that I know when I did my training, the woman that was assisting my teacher was incredibly flexible. And apparently it was something that she really struggled with in her journey through to doing yin yoga, was that she was like, but I'm not feeling this. And it was really a process of accepting, or coming to accept that, or knowing that when she was in the poses that it's still all happening. Because you take the shape, taking the shape is stimulating the meridian,
Thank you.
And yeah, I think too, every yin class or pose is different every day for me. This day it was very refreshing and very easy and very soft, and yeah, I didn't expect that. But yeah, it is different every time. Sometimes it's hurting and sometimes it's not. So yeah, like real life maybe. But now I feel really light, and that's a nice feeling. Yeah.
I find that too with the upper body meridians, that doing yin classes for them, and it's not traditionally, yin yoga doesn't traditionally focus on the upper body meridians. It focuses mostly on the meridians in the hips and the legs.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually where I've really stepped away from the way my teacher teaches yin yoga. And it was something that I really struggled with doing, because, you know, taking those steps away from your teacher is there's a real internal struggle there. Yeah. But as I practice in that way, and as I've been teaching that way, I've just found that there's been such freedom in it, as you explained, and in my own experience, such a release that's happened. And I can feel the healing. Like, it's been so healing for my physically, my neck and shoulder area. Also, just a real release of the tension that causes migraines for me as well. So I guess I just have to go with how it's affecting my own experience. Also, emotionally, I find it really freeing.
Yeah, I think that it's like I left something behind. Yeah, that's also lighter. Yeah, and maybe it's because of the meridians. Who it's not only the long meridian you touch; it's also the heart meridian. No. Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah.
I mean, these are key meridians that run through our arms to the emotional states that we really quite struggle with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't think I would get into it, but I'm glad that I am, and I am choosing the poses that I do that I think still attend to the yin principles with integrity. You know, that are still using that slow, gentle traction. Mm-hmm.
Is it all of yin yoga then that doesn't do very much for the upper body? Or is it your teacher specifically?
My teacher.
Your teacher.
My teacher, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she really sticks to, you know, pigeon, bound angle, the child's pose. She sticks to about 5 poses. It's really repetitive what she does.
It's interesting also, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes I had the feeling like, oh, it's a bit boring. Not today, but that's also very different every day. There are times I do yin yoga and I really think, again, this pose again. And then
yin yoga is that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
And isn't that like life, right? You get up and you think, oh, do the dishes again, another day, make, what am I going to have for breakfast? What am I going to make for lunch? What am I going to make for dinner? I got to do this work again. I got, you know, like, I think, you know, like, we so want to entertain ourselves. We so want to be entertained. We so want the new next and best thing. And so I think that isn't it great that we're not entertaining ourselves in a yin yoga class?
Yeah, it's confronting too. Yeah.
And I also thought in the beginning to stay 5 minutes in one pose, that's kind of not only boring, but also, 5 minutes? And now it's like, well, 5 minutes are over now? Are you sure? So really time flies. And I don't know what I do in the time, because I don't have the feeling I think a lot or I do anything. I'm just there. And that's really nice.
I agree. I think our time is so filled in our day-to-day lives. We fill up every single moment. We don't have any time where there's nothing happening. That our bodies, our minds, everything in us just crave this stillness where there is, quote, nothing happening. You know, even though there's a lot happening, we're finally giving space for energy to move through our body. And I think it's really important. And I don't know how many other yin classes you've tried, but you know, I try to find other people to collaborate with all the time when I'm trying their yin classes and stuff. There aren't very many teachers that are holding for 5 minutes out there. So in the video land. So it's really nice to have those long luxurious holds, and we can start to hold for longer too. You know, yin you can hold for 10 minutes. You can hold some poses for 20 minutes. You know, and you can see that in a pose like, yeah, well, Tim's like, yeah, in the video you can also always press pause too. So if you feel like you want longer, you can always press pause. And like Shavasana, like how often do you get a Shavasana in any class? And I was guilty of that for years too, not giving a Shavasana. Now I can't imagine not giving at least 5 minutes for Shavasana. So I think now more than ever, we really need this, you know.
Yeah, it's like I think nowadays you just can read it in books, but when I was a kid, we went for 4 weeks to my grandparents in Serbia, and we didn't do a lot. I mean, there wasn't anything to do but to help on the farm, which is not such a big work if the farm is for two people usually. So we didn't do anything for some days, just reading, sitting around, talking, listening to music, and my grandparents lived outside of the town, so it was even more remote.
Mm.
And I think this is something I now can value far more than when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that nobody has that nowadays, or nearly nobody. I mean, when you go out for vacations with your family, usually you plan something. I mean, you do things like sightseeing or go, I don't know, I never did that, but go to this club vacations. And then you have an entertainer for your kids because you want to have free and spare time and stuff like that. So it's even vacations are filled with things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think that that's why it's really important to acknowledge this as a very generous act. You know, this time that you're all taking to retreat here this week, and to give yourselves this gift of taking that step back from your life. And you know, even though this is very structured, it is structured space to have that stillness. And a lot of my classes are designed that way. You know, we took some time this year to really look at what it is that we are offering, and we realized that what we offer is very different from everybody else, and we decided to very much embrace that this year. So that when you come to do a class with me, we are not trying to entertain you. What we are doing is offering you a space of respite and rest from the rest of the world. And so you'll see that more and more in our classes, and that we will continue into this new year. So if there's not anything else sort of bubbling to the surface right now, I think that's a really beautiful note to end on, that acknowledgement of your own generosity to create this space in your life for rest, for respite, for ease, for stillness, and for this yin space. I will be checking in on the forum later, probably this evening. We're going to film yoga with Melissa now, and then I've got some appointments this afternoon, but I really do honor the time that you're taking for this. It is very rare. You know, there are 12 of you here, and it seems like it is a very beautiful and abundant turnout, but it's not, in the scheme of things, it's not a lot of people that take time like this, so I really do appreciate and honor, and it is very special. So thank you. I will check in and respond to your posts on the forum, and we'll see you tomorrow when we'll be looking back. It's beautiful reflection on what really brings us contentment, you know, and that's how I arrived at knowing that, you know, what my purpose is to bring this space of rest and ease into the world, you know. So we all have a unique purpose here, and we all get to walk that path, and it's unique for each and every one of us. So until tomorrow, different time tomorrow, 4 o'clock tomorrow. So I won't be seeing all of you tomorrow, probably most of you. Some of the North Americans, but not the Europeans. Okay. Namaste. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, thanks.